There are a few people, intellectuals in the world who I admire. One of them is Ivan Svitek. He was from a time in Czechoslovakia before the Velvet Revolution. He participated in Prague Spring, a time when academics, teachers, professors, journalists had to imply things rather than say them. He got a little bit fed up with that, put up some bureaucratic resistance. After the Velvet Revolution, he came to the United States, where he had been considered an anti-Soviet hero until they learned that he had some thoughts that were a little bit like Galileo telling the the earth revolved around the sun, concerning Marxism and so forth, labor, um, obligations to labor. And he writes in section 8 of the Czechoslovakian um, experiment, I believe it's a chapter, Heads Against the Wall. Section 8 of Heads Against the Wall, Praxis, it's called. He writes, in an era of dictatorships, do not think of politics in terms of classical liberalism and its ideology. In the present wave of democratization, do not think in terms of totalitarian dictatorship and its ideology. Think about reality in terms capable of expressing reality itself. Thus, do not erect before your actions new barriers of an ideological character. Instead, try to understand reality. So, in the Rafa safe zone offered by Seattle, Washington to the deaf white suck, we find lurking the West Coast spinner beanie of Zell Martin and her Latino warriors, um, operating out of UW Dialectical for Carnegie Mellon University. And of course, they've constructed her ideology. They've discarded the advice of Svitek's practice. They're operating for the aristocracy of Carnegie Mellon University, for Donald Trump, David Jeffen, and a lobby of feminist Nazis, Nazi feminists, working with Neva Pornographic and Yoko Ono, with their tall tale about Gail Burston being irrelevant, Jimmy Carrey being to blame for something that I suspect never really happened. It's a narrative device from on high. So what do we know for a fact? What we know for a fact is that Deborah Martin's calling card came from Will Zell Brome. Will Zell Brome spoke, it's reported. He spoke of a human scheme to transform the human race by injecting the blood, before setting up the Venus flytrap on Mount Desert Island with the help of Pittsburgh parochials and administration at the University of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon University during the age of Bush and Reagan, with the help of the Green Party. So, since we know all of that, is there something else that we can uncover to show that Deborah Martin is in fact an advocate for Gail Burston? I believe there is. Gail Burston had a partner named Polly. And Polly Sollenstall was a particular power on Mount Desert Island. She came from Harvard. I believe she was a ficus with Claus Gordon. And she showed up shortly before the Jackson Immunogenetic Labs fire. I was, in fact, with her when that was being discussed. Polly, quite the polygraph. room in Maine State Police Department. Didn't ask me any questions about her, but I testified about Zell. She had a dog named Calhoun. Now, what's relevant about Mount Desert Island is Saker, the Japanese, German, the Green Party, Black Panther advocate, warrior island is the race and reason was written there by Carlton Putnam. And there was a scientist named Calhoun. Caspar Weinberger lived there. The people who had the rifle that was found in Texas School Book Depository used to take boating excursions there, I believe. There was a scientist named Calhoun. The Jackson Immunogenic Laboratories was a mouse cage, was a mouse breeding facility for experiments in science. And Zell was a mouse cage assembler there. Calhoun believed he conducted an experiment where overpopulated mice turn on each other. And I believe that Calhoun is the missing link between Polly Saltonstall and Deborah Martin, because Deborah Martin has the distinct mouse-like characteristic of defining people by sectors in their life. Oh, that one's a white, it's deaf. What do we need to make it inferior to the Latino? What we need to do is we need to degrade, we need to subject it to successive degradations of the X motive for the need of a pornographic. And this is the essence of the gibbering that goes on at UW Dialectical.